Hi, Brandon at CrossFit Grandview here. Lately, a lot of people have been asking me, how do you come up with the workouts? What are we doing next week? Are we back squatting? What's the next training cycle? So I wanted to make this video to address how I come up with the workouts, how I set up these training cycles, how I program for the year, the month, and just kind of give a basic overview of how I do the programming here. So I'm going to start out first with talking about how I'm going to just look at the year. This is also called a macro cycle. So I have different training phases. So we have a foundational phase, a strength phase, a power endurance phase, an endurance phase. Okay. I learned these phases from Jim Jones. So they came up with the 300 workout way back in like 2006 or 7. I started following them. I still follow them to this day. And this is a basic way that they set up their training. And so I took that and applied it to the way I program. And what this really does is it helps us avoid plateauing. So these training phases are essentially periodization to improve GPP with movements that are commonly used in CrossFit. So I don't use a lot of the training modalities that Jim Jones uses. I'm going to use a lot more of CrossFit.com, things that Doug Chapman from Hyperfits came up with, a lot of my own stuff, and then I'm going to mix and match those things. But I really like how these training phases set up your year. So each training phase is slightly biased towards a specific fitness attribute. So foundation. The foundation looks a lot like CrossFit.com. Foundation is a great time to retest workouts, to work on technique, correct imbalances, rehab injuries, work on work capacity, and really testing all of the energy systems. So that foundational phase looks a lot like what CrossFit.com is. It's going to be constantly varied functional movement. You're going to test strength, power, endurance, kind of all in equal measures. And that phase here at CrossFit Grandview is going to usually last about 3 to 5 weeks. We transition from that foundational phase into a strength phase. And the strength phase, I like to use Wendler 531 or his newer program, Beyond Wendler 531. And then I like to mesh that in with CrossFit workouts. That being said, we're only going to do strength before a WOD about 3 days a week. So that bias is slightly biased. We're still doing 4 days a week. It's just a warm-up, a skill, and a workout. That phase is going to be between 4 and 8 weeks. So during the strength phase in the warm months, you're going to see a 4-week cycle. During the winter, we're going to go ahead and do an 8-week cycle. We move from the strength phase to a power phase. So that's rate of force production. And in CrossFit, and here at CrossFit Grandview, what that means is a bias towards Olympic weightlifting. So 2 days a week, we're going to concentrate on the clean and jerk and the snatch, typically before a short workout. So I have a basic Olympic weightlifting progression that I came up with that works fantastic in classes. We move from that to a power endurance phase, and that's the phase we're actually currently in. And when I'm done describing each phase, I'm going to actually break down how I program that power endurance phase. Power endurance phase is going to be repping weightlifting. So applied to CrossFit, it's cycling a barbell. Workouts like Grace, Isabel, things like that. That is power endurance. So for us, we train barbell cycling using a protocol that Doug Chapman at Hyperfit came up with called Prison Rules. And then we'll also use his MOFO training protocol. but right now we're using the prison rules one. And this is going to be testing your sub-maximal weightlifting. From power endurance, we're going to flow into an endurance phase. That's going to be about 3 to 5 weeks. And this is a phase a lot of CrossFitters, especially a lot of competitors, don't like to do. But what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to tolerate more work. It's going to help us even grind out bigger sets. Say we're squatting, we're doing a 20 rep back squat. This endurance phase is going to help us grind out those big sets. We're always doing strength work. You know, we're hitting 3s and 5s, those big sets, or when we're in competitions, we're not going to be able to get through it. That's going to be about 3 to 5 weeks, and this endurance phase this year is actually going to kind of coincide with a summer shred that we're doing, which is starting at the end of this week. We'll actually move from that endurance phase right back up to foundation. And in our endurance phase, all this is 2 to 3 times a week we're going to do a WOD that's 20 plus minutes. So, going into this a little bit more, each phase is going to flow right into the next. So foundation, strength, power, power endurance, endurance, coming right back up to foundation. We're going to cycle through 2 full training cycles per year. So each one of these takes roughly a month. Some of them are a little less. We'll only do 3 weeks, and that's going to account for that 8-week strength cycle that we do in the winter. So what I'm going to show you guys is how I set up our macro cycles, which is going to be our typically our 3 to 6 week cycles. And right now we're in a power endurance phase. So I'm going to show you guys how I set that up and how I came up with the power endurance phase. So what we have is a training protocol I actually learned in the comp course. It's very simple. It's just a 5x3 touch and go on the minute power clean and jerk, and then a power snatch. So it's a 5x3, 5x3, 5x3. This is power snatch and power clean and jerk. This is going to flow into prison rules. That protocol is every 15 seconds for 16 intervals, 2 touch and go reps. And this is the older version. I don't think Doug uses this version currently, but I really like this older version to use, especially with our all-level classes. 2 touch and go reps every 15 seconds for 16 intervals. If I were to prescribe a weight, basically I let everyone pick a weight that's suited to them. If I were to prescribe a weight, we're going to look at 135, 95. And then from there, we increase it as we go through this cycle. So moving on, we are going to actually go power clean and jerk. This is week 1. And 3. This is week 2 and 4. So we go power clean and jerk and power snatch. Same thing here. We're going to do on the minute. This is 5 minutes. On the minute. We go to this. Week 3, we come back and we try and increase weight. It may be 5 pounds, it may be 10 pounds, but we increase weight. Here we're going to start somewhat conservative. on week 4, we come back and we try and increase weight here. So the idea is we really dial in the technique, establish a baseline on weeks 1 and 2, and then weeks 3 and 4 we improve upon that. So it's really simple the way we set this up. We're going to do this twice a week. Right now we're doing it Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we do this twice a week. By the end of this month, so we've got 4 workouts in where we're doing touch and go, power clean and jerks, touch and go snatches. Almost everyone who's done that should PR a Isabel or a Grace. Okay, so we get 4 workouts in a month for clean and jerks and power snatches, and that's how I'm going to set up the power endurance phase. Okay, so that's just an example of how I set up one of these training phases before we move on to the next one. So on a weekly cycle, we're going to move over to the board here. So what we're going to concentrate on is the top. And this is going to be our all levels training. On the bottom here, we have all of our games training. So on a weekly basis, I'm going to program the workout. So I program the workouts about a week out. What I like to use is things that we learned at just like your basic level 1 or your level 2 seminars. If you have your training packet, I like to have basically these just CrossFit programming templates. You guys can find these online, but I like to just peek at it while I'm programming, and it keeps the workouts nice and varied. So if I just look here, this is a basic training protocol that CrossFit came up with if you're doing 5 days on and then 2 days off. I really like to use this because on the weekends we're typically going to test a benchmark, and then I like to do a .com workout. But during the week I like to use like a 5-day split, and then the weekends are a little bit different than the normal week. So I use this to make sure, I'm always peeking at this to make sure we're doing short workouts, medium workouts, long workouts. I'm going to try and keep most of the workouts in that 5 to 10 and 11 to 20 minute range. And then I'm always peeking over here. I'm looking at weightlifting. I'm like, okay, we've done back squats, front squats, presses. We haven't done a sumo deadlift high pull in 3 weeks, so I know I need to get that in. So I'm always just peeking over here while I'm programming the training on a week-to-week basis. I have my basic strength progression that I like to use here. So when we do the strength phase, I have a strength progression that I like to use. And then I have my basic Olympic weightlifting phase written up here. So I can just plug and play this stuff right into the board when I'm programming. That's a basic overview of how I'm going to set up the workouts throughout the year, every month, and then week to week. I hope you guys enjoyed it.